Great to have you join me. It's still learning English language with Uncle AY. So today we'll be looking at the second type of clause, which is the subordinate or the dependent clause. However, recall that we started the series on clause at the last video I shared, where we talked about its definition as well as its types. There are just two types. The very first one is the independent or the main clause, and this is the second one we'll be looking at today, the subordinate or the dependent clause. And I remember that we went further in describing the independent or main clause, and we looked at its types, and I gave us sentence examples. So let's just delve right into the action of today. So what is a subordinate or a dependent clause? A subordinate or a dependent clause is one that cannot stand alone in a sentence to express a clear-cut idea, sense, or thought, despite possessing a finite verb. So this is basically the definition of a subordinate clause. There are three types of subordinate clauses. The very first one is what we'll be talking about today, which is the noun clause, which has the alternative name of a nominal clause. And then number two is the adjectival clause, which also has the alternative name in the relative clause. And then number three, we have the adverbial clause. So let's just look at the very first one, which is the noun clause. So what is a noun clause? A noun clause is one that stands in place of a noun. A noun clause does represent something or somebody. A noun clause is one that stands in place of a noun and of course represents somebody or something. So that's a clear definition. So that's it. A noun clause can also be introduced by subordinating conjunctions such as what, whose, who, whom, that, why, whatever, whatever, and so on. So these are popular subordinating conjunctions that introduces a noun clause in a sentence. So that said, we also look at its functions. And if you recall, when we were talking about phrase, right, we also talked about the function of a noun phrase. And I recall telling us that there are three functions of a noun phrase. A noun phrase will function as a subject of the verb, right, an object of the verb, and finally a complement of the subject. So since we have these functions for a noun phrase, we also have it here for a noun clause. So the functions of a noun clause, right, we have the subject of the verb, which is also called the performer or doer of an action, and then we have the object of the verb, which is also called the receiver of an action, and finally we have the complement of the subject. And we'll be looking at this very first one as a clue to determining our grammatical name in this expression, which is of course the noun clause, right? So we have to underline or find out what our noun clause is first, and then pin it in this grammatical name, and then look for its function. So let's not forget what a clause is again. A clause is a group of words that possess a finite verb, and because it possesses a finite verb, it may or may not make a complete sense, thought, idea, or expression. And then we are looking at the second type here, which is the subordinate or the dependent clause. And the subordinate or dependent clause, I said earlier, is one that cannot stand on its own to express that clear-cut idea despite possessing a finite verb. So that said, the very first example here is what I said helped him. What I said helped him. So we have a subordinating conjunction here in what, right, introducing the sentence. But let's not forget that our concern here is the noun clause. We have to find out what a noun clause is. So I haven't found out what our subordinating conjunction here is in what. We have to point out what our noun is, and then when I go further, I find out that my main noun here is this in I. Yes, there's really no difference between a noun and a pronoun. A noun is the name of any person, animal, place, or thing. A pronoun are words used instead of a noun. So this right here is my noun. So I have to go for that because I have to spot, a finite verb here that can identify with the rest of the sentence to make it what, a noun clause. And the next thing after this happens to be what, a verb instead. So I can't go for that because there's another verb here. And if I should pick it, then it means that I'm getting close to the end of the sentence. So I have to be very, very conscious of that, and of course restrict myself to the noun clause. So what I'm doing is taking it from here and I'm going all the way to this place. Now this is what I said. If you tell somebody this, or continue to reiterate this expression to somebody, they get really confused and they want to ask you, what are you trying to pass across? Is there something more to this? I mean, you should spill, but they're not saying anything. They only stop here. So this makes it our noun clause, right? Because it possesses a finite verb in said, right? And does not complete an expression, or does not make a clear-cut idea or thought. So what I said, this is our main noun here. This right here is a subordinating conjunction. So all of this adds up as our noun clause. So that said, how do we fit it here as a grammatical name? So it becomes what I said, end of quote, is the noun clause. So the next question here is, as a subject, now what I said, a noun clause, that is, what is its function, right? Now, let's not forget the clue here. A noun clause can function as a subject of a verb. So that's the very first one we'll be looking at. So this is our clue. So it functions as the subject of the verb. So what's the verb in question? The verb in question here is helped. This is a verb. So we go further to say it. So the it here in question is what I said. It functions as the subject of the verb helped, end of quotes. So let's take number 2. The sentence here says, why I did that surprised him. Why I did that surprised him. So this is a subordinating conjunction, right? Let's not forget as a subject now, subject of the verb. And then we go further, right? My noun, although it's a pronoun, I mentioned earlier there's really no difference. A noun is the name of any person, animal, place, or things. And then we have pronouns to be words used instead of a noun. So I have to go further, right? Subordinating conjunctions, then my noun, and this right here is a verb, okay? And why I did, this is a pronoun, so I have to stop here because the next thing after this is another verb. So I'm not supposed to take the next verb alongside, the noun clause, right? So that's it. Why I did that is my noun clause here. So it becomes, as a grammatical name, becomes why I did that, end of course, is the noun clause. So the next question is, what is the function of why I did that in this expression or sentence? Let's not forget, right? Subject of the verb. So definitely it functions as the subject of the verb. So the verb here in question is surprised. So it functions as the subject of the verb surprised. So this is it. So this right here is 1 mark. This takes 2 marks. This right here is 1 mark. This is 2 marks. So we scored 6 in all if you attempt this correctly, even in the comprehension passage that you'll be given in school or wherever. So that said, this is all there is to know about a noun clause, talking about the subject of a verb. And the next video will have me discussing about the object of the verb, still talking about the noun clause. Like I always say, don't forget to tell somebody what you've learned. Don't forget to like, don't forget to share, and of course put a comment in the comment section. So the next video will be talking about the object of the verb. And yeah, I'll see you in the next class. Thank you for your attention.